We can just be like, welcome.
Welcome to One Shot's Tavern.
And it, honestly, it's probably already started. Like, I probably will start now.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Perfectly okay. So
yeah, guys,
we have
informal episode. Let's go.
we finished 2 Kickstarters, collectively raised over
Holy
$7,000.
crap.
With zero planning.
Okay, a little
and
bit.
Just
a little bit of planning.
a little bit of planning. Not enough planning.
Not enough planning.
Jumped right into it. In fact, like, I had forgotten we were doing this, and then you had said, "Hey,
You ready?
do you have your zine ready?" And I go, "Oh, I got a thing we could do."
Yeah.
Which is great. It was a thing I wanted to do. This is it was a process.
Yeah, so for our wonderful listeners, we obviously, if you've been keeping up with us, both launched separate projects, part of Kickstarter's Zine Quest, which is a like a design launch effort during the month of February. They do it every year for creators to put out a TTRPG zine. If you don't know what a zine is, it's short for a small magazine. That being
Yes.
said, it's a bit more than like the range of what a zine is kind of all over the place, which is cool. It's its own community in the art space, in the activist space. Like, it's a like zines are often very political. It kind of came out of from what I understand, like the 90s, 80s kind of time where people were creating,
Yeah.
political pamphlets, or they were just like doing art pieces just as a booklet to read through. Long story short, like the TTRPG community, I don't know when, but they adopted doing zines as TTRPGs, which is more short form rather than your big hefty source books. And I don't know when Zine Quest started. I should probably have looked it up, but basically, Kickstarter, crowdfunding platform, is made a whole month dedicated to promoting that kind of a project. For me,
Yeah.
I fell in love with game jams back in 2020-ish, when I was doing some development stuff with a buddy of ours named Luke. We did a couple little indie video games in Unity. And if you're not familiar with a game jam is you get X number of days, or like a month, and you have to, within that month and within some specific creative constraints, create a video game and launch it. And sometimes
Right.
there's like a competition on the back end and all that, but that's not really the point. The point is, here are boundaries, here are limitations, make something. And as a creative, and as I don't want to call myself a perfectionist, because I'm not, but like as a heavily self-critical person, it is so helpful for me to know that it has to come out. Has to, loose term, but it is coming out, and I'm committing to more narrow constraints where like mistakes are going to be okay, and we're just going to do it.
Right.
Now, Zine Quest isn't officially that. There are people that have their book done before they even think about Zine Quest, and they just happen to launch during the month of February. But for me, I decided and asked DJ to try and do the same. Let's make this a game jam. Like, let's make this the fire under our butt to actually do self-publishing. And so we did. We're not published yet.
We did it.
The journey's not done. It's kind of just starting. But here's my favorite metric. DJ, we already talked about it. You said it this morning because you just finished funding in the night. And
Yeah.
we both separately, obviously different lists of backers, we both have 118 backers on each of our projects.
And granted, some of those are definitely like shared.
Oh yeah, there's definitely
people
overlap,
who back theirs. Yeah.
but like it's the same number of backers, which is awesome. So nobody won, DJ. Sorry, I mean, you raised more money than me, so I guess you won. But, like,
It's friendly competition,
yeah,
that's all
and
that.
it was, okay, let's talk about that real quick. So I think,
Yeah.
there was let's talk about some of the downsides and the not fun parts of fundraising. Why don't
Yeah.
you start?
Okay, so listen, I like talking about other people's stuff a lot. I find it really easy. I can do it without nearly as many crutch words and without as many,
You knows.
just pauses and I can have more excitement.
Yeah.
But when it comes to talking about something that I'm doing, even though I am incredibly passionate about it, uh I don't have the words to describe it. This is actually something I have run into a few times. My game listings on Start Playing Games, for
Right.
example. It's that same kind of self promotion where I'm supposed to talk about my games and I'm supposed to be like, oh, yeah, it's like all up here. I see it. It makes sense. The words don't come to me. So I found myself having a much easier time whenever I would talk about Battle School, right? And talking about Andrew's crowdfunding to talk about that. So self promotion, hard.
Yeah.
So if you're gonna do it, I suggest just writing down some bullet points and be like, this is what I'm going to talk. These are my talking points. What are some of the other things?
Well, I mean, on the self-promotion thing, I got into actually mostly regularly posting on TikTok on my own personal account during the month of February, and twofold. One, I obviously hate parts of it because it's social media and it's a freaking job. But two, it was also very, both the Kickstarter and growing a little bit on TikTok, there's something that scratches the back of your brain about stupid little numbers. So that was
Oh yeah, for
satisfying
sure.
and discouraging and toxic and bad for your brain.
Yep.
Seeing dollar signs going up on a project sure is exciting. Just from like the carnal greed side of things.
But then seeing them go
Oh my
down.
god. So, yeah, that's where I was kinda going, but juxtaposing the dollar signs to the actual number of backers for me was healthy. It was, not, "Oh, yay, there's all this money," but it was like, "No, there are, like, fricking 118 humans that saw
Yeah.
this as a worthy project of investing in and helping make successful." And then me going, "How did I get these people?" Because I can see everybody that backed, I see all their names. I don't recognize most of them. And,
Right.
now I will say a good portion of them, I'm like, "Oh, wait, I kind of recognize that name." And that makes me grateful for all of my friends that have helped promote the crap out of this. Like, I know
Oh, for sure.
of at least, 10 people that are close to me that blew it up within their own circles. And, I see somebody that works with Will, for example, and I'm like, "What? Awesome. Sweet." Like, there are 118 people for my project and 118 people for your project that said,
Yeah.
"I like this and I wanna play it."
Yep.
That is more people than I have ever ran a game for probably. Like, that's not true, but you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, in my very long time, I've definitely ran for probably more than 118 people, but it's probably close, right? Like, that's a lot of people. And that helped me
Yeah.
kinda stay grounded, and grateful rather than just greedy and excited about money. Um, but switching back to what you mentioned, what sucks about being on the back end of all these analytics for a project is seeing when people, switch their pledge to a lower amount or cancel and you don't know why. And or like you'll see somebody
Yeah.
back and then an hour later completely cancel. And you're like, what did I do
Yeah.
wrong?" Right?
Yep.
And like, let me be very clear. If you're a listener and you backed out, like, we don't have any resentment towards anybody. We're not just like, "Hey, you owe me money." Like, none of that. But
No,
it's more
absolutely
for
not.
our mental health. It's kind of sucks to have some of those analytics.
Yeah. And here's the thing, right? I have been told multiple times from multiple people who have done successful Kickstarters and backer kits and all of that fun stuff to not look at it.
Yep.
But like you just want to know, you want to know who, you want to know what they're getting, right? You get so excited about it. And I think I lost a total of 10 people over my kit, right? And not my kit, my
Campaign.
Kickstarter.
Yeah.
And it's a bummer, but also at the same time, I add up all those pledges that were lost and I'm like, you know what?
Doesn't matter.
No big
Yeah.
deal. It's fine. Because like in the beginning, we set out to raise
Yeah.
$500 and have a folded over stapled zine that was going to be mostly
Yep.
words. And now we have perfect bound, glossy paged,
I'm
like
doing satin.
books. Oh, you're doing satin
Yeah,
pages?
dude. It's like Spencer's. I like how they feel.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I'm doing glossy pages, satin cover.
Yeah.
Uh, it looks good with the colors,
Yeah, no, totally. But
Um,
yeah, like we
but
had a
like
small
it, w-
scope,
it,
right? And now we get
it's
to
a
do
full
so
thing
much more.
now,
Yeah.
and there's some things. So like, all right, let's get into this. We both on our first like individual Kickstarters for publishing blew it out of the park.
Yeah.
We succeeded. We got 118 backers each. Like it turned out so much better
Yeah.
than we could have really expected, right?
Yeah.
You could dream that it's going to blow up, but like the real is like the real inside like feeling is like, all right,
Yeah.
I'm probably going to raise like $1,000, right?
Yep.
We blew that out of the water. We met our goals.
By about
What
7x. Like,
by about 7 times. Yeah. What is something that you wish you would have known going into this, or you wish you would have done going into this?
yeah. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. And again, like, not to overly disclaimer the hell out of this conversation. Like, please, everybody know we will continue saying thank you about a million times over. We are infinitely
100%.
grateful. Anything that we say that sounds to the contrary is just us learning about kind of the business side and the less human side of this experience, which is not actually what we care about. Um, we're
Right.
learning about it, but yeah. So that's the caveat. I wish I had charged more for my PDF, right? I charged
Mm.
$5 for the PDF. And that's not like, oh man, I left so much money on the table. Like, yeah, there's probably a piece of that. But also there just aren't a lot of games on this scale that I think are priced at that point. And it was my own
Mhm.
insecurity that nobody would back it if it was like $10. And if
Right.
I look at the numbers, I'm curious. Not that I want to actually worry about this, but I wonder what portion was just PDF of my 118. I think it was like
37 for me.
48. So I left not that much on the table. Really, $5 a zine. So if I doubled that, that's 100, that's another $240 roughly
Right.
that I missed
Yep.
out on. Like, okay, like that maybe is a counterpoint to something that feels like a regret. Like it's a negligible amount of money. I hate to say that, but like it's in the scope of what I raised. Um, and I think that I wish I had planned my stretch goals more clearly with these spreadsheets that we have set up now early on. So
Yeah, absolutely.
huge thank you to Will Messler. He's a friend of the stream. If you've been around, seen him in some of our games, he played in Candela Obscura. He's in a couple that are coming up here as well. But he's got a lot more business savvy. He professionally does a lot of stuff in the world of like development for Salesforce and the back end of a business. And so we sat down and I'm a decently budget savvy person, but he helped me kind of rewire what I was already thinking and then set up kind of a template for DJ to use as well for our Kickstarter to like
Right.
manage cost and all the boring stuff that we don't need to get into. Um, but that saved my butt and I wish I had done it sooner. And if I hadn't done it at all with Will, I don't think right now I would feel very confident about the Kickstarter in terms
Right.
of what my cost and profit and all that stuff is going to be. So, like, to the advice we've received from other people and to that point, I think that there's a lot of benefit to jumping into this blind. But man, do I need to learn a lot about running a business, before doing
Yeah,
something like this again.
absolutely. Same thing, right? Similar. For me, when I was kind of floating around with the start playing games pals, I was talking to them and talking to some of the people like Friday, which
Episode just came out,
previous
yeah.
episode. That's one of the episodes that kind of like gave us the hey, you can do this, and then
Which, by the way,
Spencer
that was the
basically hammered that
first
nail in.
thing we recorded
We
for our
recorded,
entire
yeah,
podcast, and it came out as episode
yes, it was.
11.
Yep. Yeah, I looking at the spreadsheet helped me significantly feel relief,
Yeah,
right? Because I was doing all the math in my head and keeping the numbers in my head, and I was like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to put as much art in this as I would like,
yeah,
right? And so then we sat down, we came up with the budgeting on it. Highly recommend you guys, if you are going to undertake a project like this, definitely sit down and come up with some sort
yeah,
of sheet for this. And then just track everything,
yeah,
right? You look at the different like variations of printing. So like if you want to print like 10 of them, well, they're going to be like $8 a thing, right?
yeah,
Or, you do them at different levels. Like, okay, I want to print 150 of them. Oh, it's going to be this much. And so
yeah,
it allows you to really look at it and go, where is my wiggle room? What can I contribute back towards the Kickstarter safely
yeah,
so that when the time comes, I'm not paying out of pocket because I'm not going to have a failed funding
yeah.
campaign, right? No matter what, this is coming out and it is going to be in people's hands because I'm not vaporware.
Right. I think that
But
happened
also,
with oh, go ahead.
yeah, oh, I was gonna say also, not like we're not vaporware, and at the same time, like this is not the only Kickstarter we want to
Yep.
run.
I mean, I saw this the minute it became what I'll call as successful, like, not just funded, but 200% funded, and then once it was 200% funded, it was 400% funded, right? Like, when it felt successful, I went, "Okay, not only do I get to invest in this book being the best that it can be, but I can keep doing this." Like,
Yeah,
spoilers to our listeners, the podcast is not lucrative. Like, we
we're on episode
we're
something,
just getting
like
started. Yeah, like, whatever.
under 20 episodes at this point.
And, like,
Like,
I
yeah,
don't do almost any freelance graphic design anymore. I was doing it. I'm a full-time dad, and so I'm devoting a lot of time to what is mostly just officially considered a hobby. Um, but I want to do this. This Kickstarter for me meant I can.
right.
I did not make a year's salary on this project. I made just about 3,500, which is not nothing, but it also I ain't gonna pay the bills anytime soon. So like it kind of fell into this bucket of anything that quote unquote would be called profit that wasn't already going to my editor or stuff like that was just gonna get invested into building up my business of actually freaking doing this. So, like, my funds are probably going to go towards like getting LLC set up. I'm probably, I'm currently like I have this awkward situation where my social presence has been under the name Chronoforge since
So
2019.
long.
I think 2019, which is actually,
Yep.
it's 5 years. And I think in 2021, an NFT game called Chronoforge came out. Um And I didn't own anything, under that name, but I still use it.
Yeah.
So, like, I'm not gonna LLC Chronoforge games or anything for doing my stuff. I'm probably just gonna do, like, Andrew Bowman LLC, I think,
Yep.
which is, like, easy, and I can use that forever. But, like, the money's gonna go towards that. It's gonna go towards, like, doing a new website for myself to sell physical books down the road, for whatever,
Hmm.
like, making a singular homepage. and actually just like making some upgrades to either my like computer setup for running games and play tests online or whatever, you know. So it's essentially reinvesting back into the business of it all. Um, so grateful that I can even do that now, right? Like
Right.
before it was all out of pocket. Now I
Yeah.
have something small to work towards that. And you know, we're also looking at and if we're setting up separate LLCs and stuff, right? Like we're looking at grants too. I'm gonna pick Devin's brain more soon when we interview him, but you know, like Devin
Yeah,
from Start Playing
absolutely.
Games did this big TikTok recently, basically saying like, "Hey, everybody, like there are grants out
Great.
there that you are not taking advantage of if you're in this space."
Yep.
And so yeah, info is out there for that. I don't know it yet. We're still looking
Yeah.
at that stuff, but
And it's funny too, because like the original, like, I need a name was when I wanted to basically do a D&D tavern, literally, like an
big
actual
shot.
tavern. One
Yeah,
Shots Tavern started out as a like place for that I wanted people to be able to go and play games and eat food and run their tabletop games. Um, I still would love to do that someday. And so like we're
man, is that a money pit?
LLCing, we're gonna LLC, the One Shots Tavern. And I'm gonna publish under, One Shots Tavern
Yeah,
Publishing. Like it's keep everything as much in-house as possible and make things simple. But yeah, it's insane the resources that are out there if you look for them.
yeah,
Um, and that's what we're gonna try to do. But back towards like the Kickstarter
yeah.
and stuff. If you have like a plan to start another Kickstarter, uh, or if you're out there listening and you're like, oh, I'd like to do this, um, collect emails
Oh my god.
ahead of time.
So on that, you know, didn't do that. We don't have an email
Did
list
not.
really. I mean, we have one for one shots, but I think we have like 3 emails in there. You know, hey, sign up
Yeah.
for our email list if you want. If
Oh
you're
yeah,
listening,
sign up for our email list. You could go to oneshotstavern.com and you can, add yourself to the email list if we have big important news such as Kickstarters
we should
or
probably
like
start
we're
using.
doing a fun project or we're launching an actual play, which we're
Oh
doing.
yeah,
Uh that's where we're going to email blast and you can find out all the information you need to know. Anyways, back to the subject at hand.
but yeah, okay. So like, something I'm excited about with having 118 backers on my project is that's 118 people that have already financially said I'm in.
Yeah.
On at minimum the power fantasy of playing a Ender's Game adjacent game, and I didn't say that name anywhere. Yeah, and so like that's at least people that are excited about that, but then hopefully they get the book in their hands and they like how I design and they like my game,
Right.
you know, ethos and whatever. Um and then that is a huge group of people that I can then, you know, reach out to and say, "Hey, I've got another idea." Um,
Yep. And it's great because even if they don't like, give their email when we ask in the survey, you can post an update
yeah,
on your previous Kickstarter and they'll get that
yeah.
update, right?
Well,
And
and
so
future
all of a
people
sudden
that
they
find
know.
Battle School too will see it in like
Yep.
public updates. It is,
Yep.
I think, something that I learned more than anything is the power of Kickstarter as a marketing tool.
Yeah,
Like, it, I did
absolutely.
not know. I mean, I think that that's why I pushed both of us to have smaller starting goals and stuff like that. Because I was insecure about like, look, let's at least have these
Wh-
funded, right?
What's our social media reach? Okay, cool. This is
Yeah,
our realistic goal. And then come to find out, like out of those 118 people, uh 90 of them came straight from Kickstarter.
exactly. Like, okay, this is the cool part of analytics. You know, we're on the back end, we're
Yeah.
poking around and we're seeing every single source. Like anybody that gives a dollar, we know roughly where they came from. And a huge portion, my highest portion was still direct link, which is weird. That's not through like that's them manually punching in the entire URL. That's not searching
Yeah.
Battle School. That's the whole URL directly.
Yep.
I could see when it came from our one shots. I only had 2 people come through the one shots tavern link in bio. That's it. Like,
You had more than that.
well, that backed.
Oh, that
Yeah,
backed? Yeah, no, that's fair.
which is
Oh, that's right, because that's what it tells
yeah,
you, right?
and
Is like it
so
tells you if they came from
yeah,
that, then they backed. Yeah.
and so like that's not like that's fine. But my point is like the biggest reach I had was people manually typing in the entire URL, which I think means it came from my TikTok, which is weird
Yeah.
because I at the beginning
Well,
of
I
the
don't know.
month I only had like 300 followers on TikTok, and I ended the month with about 500, so it's like 200 new people, and a huge amount of them for my Kickstarter came from there. But the second biggest place was just discovery on the back end of Kickstarter. So like that's suggestion in Kickstarter. That's people already on the
Yeah.
platform just scrolling looking for something to back, finding my project and clicking on it.
Yep. So another thing I think that direct traffic is people going to our, one shots tavern, copy and pasting the link
Okay.
over because it's a pain in the butt to go through TikTok's
Sure. That
browser
makes sense.
to log in to log in,
Maybe.
right?
Yeah.
But like 23 of my pledges, it says direct traffic, no referrer information,
Yeah.
external link,
Right.
right? So like it's pretty interesting. Like it's funny because you can see how many people are watching
Yeah.
your Kickstarter the whole time. And now I know that like yes, people watching is super cool. You're probably going to get about 20% of them who actually end up backing.
Yep.
Which is fine, right? It means that they're interested enough that they want to know what
Yeah.
happens. And because they're still following the project, they get those
Yep.
emails whenever you update.
Yep.
Um, yeah.
I want to switch gears here a little bit because we're like deep in the nerdy analytics side.
Yeah.
It's so I want to just say a very public thank you to you, right? Like this podcast and like yes, there's listeners right now, DJ, but I'm talking to you. Like
Oh, you're
yes,
talking to
I'm
me?
talking to you.
Oh, sorry. I thought you were talking to the listeners. They deserve way more credit than
I
I
mean
do.
they do. No, I'm just kidding. No, I mean like you promoted the hell out of this. You did more posts than I did about Battle School. And like
Oh yeah,
I shut
we
up
have
and
a
let me
team.
talk, okay? um no, you kicked ass and like I know you get down on yourself for like some of the things that you don't feel as good at, but like building up this podcast and building up both of our projects for Kickstarter, like you were so good at and you did such a excellent job where I don't feel competent doing that stuff.
Mhm.
And like I need you to know that you're good at that and that I appreciate it. And it's been awesome to see you thrive in that space and like why I'm happy to help out with design work and whatever for your project and stuff.
Well, I'm just glad that this first one's over.
I know.
I accept it. But I am glad to go back to being like, hey, here's podcast clips
Yeah.
and
And just
there's a
GM advice.
podcast
Yeah.
and GM advice and like this is how you play Cypher.
And
Don't get me wrong.
start playing game stuff and yeah.
And start playing game stuff. Well, I've got my games full right now. I'm
Sure.
not super worried about that, but eventually, yeah. But that being said, right? This was a learning experience for both of us, and going through the ups and downs is part of the process of launching a business and
Yeah.
launching a Kickstarter, right? And so, like for me, this level of like worrying about something was new.
Yeah.
And so that like it took tolls on me sometimes, that middle of the month where like you
It
just for
sucks.
weeks you don't nothing changes. Like you get like, oh, here's $100, and it's like, oh, but now I'm back down $200. You know what I mean?
Oh, it's the
It's
worst.
hard, but now I feel so much more confident in it.
Yeah.
And while I'm not going to launch another Kickstarter tomorrow, I'm going to do it again,
Mhm.
right? Because not only do I love the project that I've working on, or I'm working on, right? Because I'm still working on it. It's like 80%
We both
written,
have a lot to
you know,
do and a lot done.
so
Like,
much work. Yes, exactly. Um, but like it's uh it's one of those things where I do feel more confident, and like I look back and I'm like, oh, I shouldn't have worried so much, right? But it's, at the same time, like you put a lot of passion into
I
something,
get
and
it.
so like it gets scary. And I'm glad that it turned out well. I'm excited for the future on it.
Okay, let's
I'm
talk about that.
excited to build that, right? Yeah.
Let's talk about that. Okay, so what are the big future plans for DJs publishing? Like what would that
Yeah.
next project be hypothetically? And not, don't go too far into the weeds there, right? But like roughly what would
Yeah.
that project be? And then like um what else do you want to work on building up as far as your publishing business goes?
Absolutely. So, um I'm probably going to stick around for a while with Cipher System publishing.
Yeah.
For one, if you found this podcast through the Cipher Unlimited, or if you found this through Blue Sky because like Monty Cook did a repost or something, welcome. Glad to have you.
Wait,
You
Monty
guys
Cook
are some of the
reposted
most.
Pink Security?
No, they reposted other
Oh,
things.
okay.
They've
Dope.
reposted us several times, and it's nice, right? Um, they're very supportive. They're wonderful. The fans, the other, Cypher fans, like myself, one of the best communities and
Yeah.
most like supportive communities. I really like the system. I really like writing for the system. I'm probably going to keep doing some more of that. I will eventually branch off and do some other
Yeah.
things. 100%. Um, I'm going to continue to build on the Poly Pink and the Apocalypse, Pink Security, and more universe and setting. Um, like, this is what I would say is like, hey, here's the teaser for this thing that I really love.
Yeah.
Um, I think that it has a lot of potential for, diving deeper and expanding. So that's one of the possibilities. The other thing is, I've got a couple of other, fun worlds that I like and I would love to expand upon. But one of the things that I really would like to refine deeper is going to be the racing mechanics.
Yeah.
Currently, they are called junk racing mechanics. However, they're probably going to make an appearance in other like settings that I
Yeah.
do. Right? I told the people that I'm recording the actual play with, I was like, just so you guys know, this is probably going to make an appearance in one of our
Yeah.
games. Because I like it. It can drop into other things. And I want to expand upon it. I don't want it to just be like, okay, here are 3 types of vehicle classes.
Yeah.
Eventually, I would love for there to be like a whole like, this is what vehicle upgrades you can do,
Yeah.
and just like dive full head first into that. So that's where I'm at. Um,
Awesome.
I I need a lot of writing and planning, and next time I want to like come into it uh more than 20% written.
Yeah.
Um and dive in and be like, hey, maybe I'm like 85% done and I'm ready to go.
Yeah.
I'll be honest right here. The junk race mechanics were like
Idea.
that's something I could do,
Yeah.
right? And I had nothing written for them. Now I have something that I like a lot. It started to format really well. We're doing playtesting and all that stuff.
Okay, on
It
that,
is.
do we just if
Yes.
you want to play test either Battle School or
Or junk
Junk
races.
Racing, please get in our Discord. If you are
Absolutely. It's in
wherever
the
you
link.
are, it'll be in our links. Um, our Discord's growing a lot, and I'm so excited about that place. Like, it's such a solid community, and everybody that's jumped in on
Absolutely.
Battle School playtest has been like super dope people that I'm like, I want to play more games with you guys. So please get in. We have a
Yeah.
playtester role that you can grab when you're onboarding into the server or whatever, and that'll loop you right in. So there'll be some playtests that we organize over the next few months. I am going to be playtesting more soon, and then DJ is definitely playtesting soon because he's got to cut his teeth on that. But keep
Yeah.
going.
No, yeah, absolutely. So like that was one of the things that like um I used Kickstarter as a motivational tool to be like, cool, you're locked into doing a thing now.
You're screwed.
Um you like as somebody who's like super ADHD and like can easily pick up and drop a project, having a deadline and having like the you have no choice now because
Social
you always have a choice,
expectation,
but
but yeah,
the social
yeah,
expectation and the deep-seated desire to not want to disappoint you guys
and me,
um
DJ.
and you I was like, okay, cool, if I say that I'm going to do this, then I'm going to do it, and so I did,
Well, and that
and
was
I'm
fun
super
too.
excited about
Like
that. Yeah.
that's the other thing about this podcast. This I think of what we started this year as its own project, kind of as an umbrella. And it's like that is the biggest thing I would encourage people to do is find a friend that will cause you to
Yeah.
wildly commit to shit that like you can do, but you're probably not going to because your own dumb
Yeah.
brain is dumb. Like I wouldn't
Absolutely.
respectfully, DJ, I could do this podcast without you, right?
Easily. Yeah.
But I wouldn't.
Because you don't have somebody to push you, right?
Yeah,
Like
and
I couldn't do it without, like, I could, but I wouldn't,
no.
right?
Yep.
It'd quickly become I would not be talking to the listeners, and it would just be like, here's the actual play we did this week.
Right.
Uh
And yeah,
right?
it just
Like,
lets you spread out the load too in specialties.
absolutely.
Like I get to edit, I get to make thumbnails. DJ doesn't have to worry about that stuff. Conversely, he gets to promote, he gets to make new connections, he
Yeah.
gets to reach out to new people for us to play with. It's hilarious how often you will message me and be like, we're talking to Stefano on Saturday, remember? And I'm like,
With
who
super
the
fun games.
fuck is Stefano?
Yeah.
And then we get
Are
looped
you
in,
available?
right? And then I'm like, I already committed to this apparently. And then we play a game that I've never heard of that's absolutely amazing. That's
Yeah.
super fun, and we get to cut some awesome content together. And that's because
Yep.
you're a community person. Like that's been your superpower in this
Right.
space. And like I don't do that as well. I've met so many freaking cool people because of you in the last couple months. And like you can throw the blame somewhere else, right? We could by proxy throw the blame to Penny for being an amazing touchstone
Yeah.
and why we've met so many cool
Absolutely.
people. And
Yep.
like I did a big thank you on my post about, the campaign being over, just saying like Discord communities that I've gotten into have been the most inviting, exciting new spaces that I've ever been a part of in my life. Like,
Titterpig Academy,
yeah, TTRPG Collective.
TTRPG community,
Yeah.
collective,
Yeah.
yeah, like seriously amazing. Even Footing Games,
Yeah.
like it's a small community and they are so supportive.
Yep. And then like
Like,
conversely, because we're doing so much self-promotion, man, is it discouraging when you get into a Discorder and you like want to like get to know people, but you also care about what you're doing. And so the way that you relate to
yeah,
people is by sharing about yourself. And the way that we share about ourselves sometimes is, hey, here's an episode of our podcast, or here's our Kickstarter. And then I'll get like a private message be like, you've gone against the terms of self-promotion. You're a terrible scum. Get out. And I'm like, oh no. I'm
yeah.
sorry. Like I know that
There's a specific community for me that I really like. I've been a part of the Discord for a while, but like it's just a cursory like I want updates, I want
yeah.
information. And so like I made the post of like, "Hey, is there any way that like is there somewhere we're supposed to do self-promotion?" And I got like an instant message of Yeah, there is a spot for that, but, like, we want you to interact with the community more,
Yeah.
for a while before that, and I was like, That's fair, that makes sense. Sure, I've been here for, like, 8 months,
Yeah.
but, like, this is my first ever post, and I'm asking about promoting myself,
Yeah,
right?
which I
So
mean,
I got it.
I think that's been a learning curve, right? Like I don't want to be an annoying self promoter. You know the people in the discords that we're a part of where it's just like they post only their own stuff and that's the only reason why they ever interact. Like I think that is a totally fair stipulation, right? Um
Absolutely.
or like there's a local game shop that like I found that I was like super excited about. I got into their Discord and like I'm full force on, in the middle of my Kickstarter and whatever and was like solely just looking for playtesters, and I got a message and they're like, "Hey, we don't do promotion for like online stuff. Like this is a local game shop. Like we want to push people to come in and play games here."
Yeah.
Like but they didn't just slap my wrist. They're like, "Hey, do you want a spot to run a playtest in person on our next, event?" And the person that messaged me was like, I'm happy to like cancel my game and give you my spot." I'm like,
Right.
that was dope. Like, that was a correction for me when it came to self-promotion, but it also was, like, them still being awesome and, like, not just being a jerk. So, Discord's amazing, community's awesome.
Absolutely.
I wanna kinda shift gears for a second and then, probably wrap stuff up in a minute here. But, I guess I'll answer my own question, right? So, I think for me, what I wanna do next, and if you've been listening along, it's not a surprise. I wanna work on Entwine more. So Entwine is the
Mm.
engine under Battle School. Battle School happened because my wife is smart, um, and told me where to apply these game concepts that I was working on.
Right.
Um, I really wanna figure out what that project is. I have a loose idea because I wanna play with collaborative spellcasting and, make
Yeah.
the Entwine rules work for that to where, like, during the planning round, like, the team is worried about, like, how to create totems of or, like, aspects of specific elements or concepts, and then, like, everybody has access to those when crafting their individual spells, and it be like everybody's playing as a spellcaster, and everybody's kind of affecting one another, so everybody's playing a support caster, but in their own unique niche. I don't
Right.
have the, like, super, um, high concept evocative thing to tie it in and market it like I did for Battle School. Um, and Battle School was honestly easy to start out because it's essentially no magic, no superpowers, just gadgets and being smart. So it was like it let me start on the basics of an engine, which is like how does combat work at all? Um, and then now the next thing for me is like, okay, how does magic work in Twine if you wanted to run something that's more in the lines of fantasy. So that would be my next project most likely. I've got a lot of like, setting ideas that I love that I want to work on more. Um, but I've got a little fire in me with these mechanics and I've gotten like high on the fact that people actually enjoy playing it. And so like
Right.
I want to grow that and maybe make a big source book one day that, isn't as big as Cypher or something like it, but, like, would function like, I'd love to make an Entwine book in the next couple years
Right.
where it's setting agnostic, and you could run Battle School, and you could run, a collaborative spellcasting game, or somehow freaking do both, right? I guess that's just Hogwarts, but, but you get what I'm saying,
Yeah.
like, I that's where I wanna go with it, and that's where, like, I'm investing a lot of the funds is being able to do that kinda stuff, so, um, yeah, I,
Yeah. That I feel the same way. Like, it's building on the future of both of our, like, individual brands, under an umbrella. Like, let's kick some ass
yeah,
and let's do it.
Yeah. And for everybody listening, infinite thank yous from both of us. This
A
podcast is a
thousand times.
blast. And we've got some cool episodes coming up. Let's talk about that for a quick sec, and then we'll kind of wrap things here.
Yeah.
I am super excited about a couple of these episodes. Just to tease a few, this is not an official order because we decide those things a little bit closer to last minute. But we've got
Usually on Sunday.
God. No, I am usually not editing that close to it. But we've got with When Suddenly Games, we recorded a playtest of The Crypt is
The
Open.
crypt opens. Crypt
That
is
was
open.
so fun. I'm excited about that. That is a pulpy, horror light, story driven game about like supernatural stuff leaking into the world and basically creating an apocalypse. Fantastic gameplay. Jeff from When Suddenly has been one of those people that, like, by proxy of DJ and Penny and whatnot, like, I've gotten connected with, that has been super supportive, a huge resource when it comes to getting into indie publishing, and is also just a really awesome GM. So I'm excited about that
Oh yeah.
episode. What else we got going on, Deej?
Zone RPG. We recently recorded that. That's going to be super fun.
Big trigger warning on that one, though.
There's going to be a massive trigger warning because it is very much in the vein of Annihilation.
Yeah, it's
and
bio
so, like,
horror,
yeah,
nasty mutation stuff. Which I don't think we expected going into it, right? Like, I think that, but like basically every time you fail a check, you're being twisted and made into something awful. And so that gets creepy if you're not a fan of that. But
yeah,
man, is that an awesome, unique GM-less game?
yeah. Another one's going to be Crucible of Aether.
Yes.
That is a D100 system. Drop the low, or not drop the lowest, but roll low. Also very fun, incredibly crunchy and well thought out.
We said crunchy a lot during the episode too. I think I disagree with that now. I don't think
it's not crunchy anymore.
I don't think it's crunchy. I think that it looks crunchy, and
the character sheet looks crunchy.
Yeah.
Surprisingly intuitive.
It is very intuitive. The background mechanics of it, I think, are actually crunchy. But if you're playing with pre-gens and just getting into their playtest, it's easy. Like, there was no work for us to do. It didn't feel like something like Pathfinder where it's actually crunchy. But that was an awesome playtest. I'm excited about that. They were helpful too in our interview, just about like how do you playtest stuff well.
Right.
And I'm excited about that one. So if you guys are still listening, thank you again. We are everywhere. So come hang out with us over on TikTok. You can find me at Chronoforge. Wait, is that true? That's probably not true. I think I'm Andrew Bowman or something over there. One of those.
Chronoforge.
I'm Chronoforge. Chronoforge. You can find me at Chronoforge. And still trying to get my account up to 1,000 so I can start doing some live streaming.
Yep.
As far as what that can mean for, like, what am I live streaming? I'm most likely going to start live streaming a lot of the artwork and game dev for Battle School over there. I'm already doing it on one-shots occasionally. That's been a lot of fun. We're going to keep doing dev streams when we can. Not really a schedule for it right now, but yeah, check us out over there. And DJ, take it away.
Yeah. You can find One Shots Tavern on every social media that you can imagine except for X. At One Shots Tavern. So TikTok, don't worry about trying to find me on other socials. I don't have time for those. I just focus on posting on One Shots Tavern everywhere. So yeah, anywhere you want to find us, check out the Patreon. We have some exclusive gameplay footage. We're gonna have the When Suddenly Games, the Crypt has opened. We're gonna have Crucible of Aether, the full gameplays for those on and the Zone RPG on there. And
basically by the end of this month, there will be 3 or 4 full actual plays of at least 2 to 4 hours each.
Yeah.
And so like there's starting to be like a significant amount of content on that Patreon. Yeah. And it's the easiest way for you to show us support.
Absolutely. And it's funny too, because like you look at some of like the bigger podcasts and it's like they post like one special thing a month.
Yeah.
And we're just like, nah, we got too many of these. We're recording.
Right?
Check out our merch store
Oh,
also.
yeah. I mean,
So
like,
yeah,
what is that going to be? That's going to be like 12 hours of content in 1 month.
right.
So we're putting out.
Yep. And stay tuned here on the podcast feed, the YouTube, the YouTube
Yes.
channels, because I've got an actual play that is launching probably. Is this going up on Monday?
Yeah. Yep.
On Wednesday.
Yeah. This Wednesday, the someth of the month. Let's see. What is that? That is the 6th.
Yep, the 6th.
I'm
So you can find that here on the
excited for that.
podcast feed and on the YouTube.
Yeah.
So
That's
yeah.
welcomed. Well, no, the Eye of the Tyrant. The Eye of
Yep.
the Tyrant.
Dun,
All right, guys.
dun, dun. Bye.
Bye. Go away. We're leaving.